Hey guys, welcome back to the championship rounds. This is a bit different for me because obviously in women's boxing we've just had the Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano fight. Exciting fight, we all wanted to watch it, but this one, I feel invested. I literally feel invested for the first time in a women's boxing match. I know that sounds terrible, but this fight has just got so much emotion already. It's got the whole history, it's got everything you want to make a really, really big fight. And Boxer have gone ahead and put this fight on. It's been in the works for a couple of years. They've both been talking back and forwards, but Ben Shalom has got the job done. And this weekend, on Saturday, we will finally get to see who is the GOAT. In terms of a little bit of history on this fight, so both women are 12-0 in their professional careers. Claressa Shields has got basically an almost perfect record, especially even going back to the amateurs. And this is where this whole grudge match comes from, because that one loss was to Savannah Marshall. And it just seems like Claressa Shields hasn't been able to get past that. And to be fair to her, it's one of those things like when you want to be considered the GOAT or the GWOAT, then you have to go back and avenge those losses, and that opportunity is there. They're both very, very different fighters from when they first fought, and coming into this one, you just know that it's going to be absolute fireworks. I'm very, very excited. So what I've done is a little bit of a breakdown. I'm going to go over 3 things from each of the women that I think could be their real route to victory in this fight, and then I'm also going to cover what I think could be a bit of a hindrance where they could slip up in the fight as well, and I'll give you my official prediction at the end. Do not skip to the prediction, watch the whole thing. Right, so for Savannah Marshall, the first thing, I think everyone, when you think of Savannah Marshall, you think hard hitter, powerful, beast. So the power is the first thing that's going to be on Savannah Marshall's side. So they've had similar opponents in the past. I think the main thing that we can take is that obviously the Hannah Rankin fight, Savannah Marshall KO'd her in the 7th round of that fight, and Claressa Shields went the distance and beat her by unanimous decision, schooled her in the fight. But it does show with the number of knockouts that Savannah has had, how much power she actually possesses. And I've watched interviews this week as well where Hughie Fury has even spoken about the power that Savannah possesses, even with body shots. So she is a real hard hitter, and I think that's something that's obviously known, and it's going to be a real question whether Claressa can stand in the pocket with her and trade, because Claressa loves to do that. But usually we see a lot of the times with Savannah's opponents, they take a punch and it kind of stuns them and they're like, oh shit. And that's the real test here. We're going to have to see, can she take it? The second thing that I think is a massive bonus for Savannah Marshall is her trainer. And usually we don't mention it enough, but when you have a genius like Peter Fury in your corner, the tactics that he's going to employ in the fight, how is she going to come out? What is the game plan? It's all things that are very, very interesting when it comes to Peter Fury. This guy is a genius. Tyson has said it in the past. He was the one that orchestrated the win when Tyson beat Vladimir Klitschko. So he's definitely going to be coming in there with some smart plan to try and derail Claressa Shields in the ring. He's going to know exactly what to expect from Claressa Shields, and he is going to have formulated some type of plan or plans to try and get this victory. So that's something that's very interesting. I think that's definitely a massive bonus. And they also have a no video policy in their gym when it comes to sparring and so forth. So you know there's not going to be any leaks going on. You know that there's not going to be any information getting out, and it's all kind of top secret. So I'm very excited to see what the game plan is on the night. The third one is Savannah's shot selection. I think once Savannah's loose, she's got that kind of like old Fury, like with the shoulders moving around, bobbing about, and when she gets loose and starts letting her hands go, she picks the shots perfectly. Especially in that Hannah Rankins fight, towards the end when she was looking for the finish, she doesn't smother her work, and this is why she gets so many knockouts, because she's a great finisher. She picks the shots very well. She'll be loose, she'll look for uppercuts, she'll throw hooks, jabs. Her combos are the reason that she finishes opponents. You see in a lot of fights, women get hurt, but they're unable to finish their opponent. The reason Savannah can do so is because she has the power and she has a shot selection, and she doesn't smother her work. So those are my 3 things that I think are really pushing in favour of Savannah Marshall in this fight. Right, so in terms of hindrances for Savannah, well, there is a question there in terms of her gas tank. Do I think that her cardio is not great? No, that's not the point here. But further she's gone in the fight is the 7 rounds against Hannah Rankin. And other than that, her fights don't really get out the 5th round because the power usually stops opponents early on in the fight. So Claressa, a lot of her fights end up going the distance, and that's going to be a real question. If this fight does go the distance, how is she going to look in those later rounds? How is she going to look in the championship rounds? So that's another kind of factor just to kind of think about as we go into this fight. And I think it's very important as well, because when you go to territories that you haven't been to, yeah, she might have done so in the gym, in sparring and so forth, but under those lights it's a very different story. Right, moving on to Claressa Shields. So the points for her, I think we know what to expect from Claressa. Like, Claressa, her stamina is mental. Like, for the amount of volume she throws, she goes the full amount of rounds. She doesn't seem to really wilt towards the end of fights. It's absolutely insane. Her stamina and her conditioning is crazy. Like, I've been watching a lot this week, and obviously she comes from a very athletic background, and I think that's definitely helped her with her conditioning. But yeah, it is a different level, and especially with the pace she pushes to try and keep that up is, yeah, very commendable. It's insane. The second thing is her output and volume, which we've just mentioned then, and that tied in with the stamina it's relentless, honestly. Like, she'll keep coming forward, and she throws with aggression as well. She looks angry in there whenever she fights, and that's very, very dangerous for opponents. Some opponents can take punches and then they'll last the full amount of rounds. Some can't. She's only had 2 knockouts, so I don't think she's the most powerful puncher, but it's the fact that she kind of just has this unrelenting, like, stamina and output that just kind of overwhelms opponents in there. And it looks great for the judges as well, because it looks like she's taking control of the round and she's really taking it to her opponent. I expect her to come out very quick against Marshall, and I think Savannah's also said the same thing. In the early rounds, she can kind of see her coming out quick to set the pace in the fight. The final thing that I have for Claressa Shields is her footwork. I think it's something that's very underrated, actually. And we saw this, especially in the Christina Hammer fight, that she was able to close the ring off very well. She likes to throw those punches in bunches. She likes those flurries. And the only way you can really do that is if you back your opponent up into a corner. And she managed to do this very successfully as the fight went on. So I think with footwork, I think that Savannah Marshall would need to be very elusive in there, and I think they would have worked on footwork a lot, moving around the ring, getting out of dangerous positions, because that is exactly what Claressa Shields is going to look to do. She's going to look to back her up and then really let those hands go and maybe come in and out so that she doesn't take any power punches herself off Savannah Marshall. It's also going to make it very difficult for Savannah to actually land one of those big punches on her in the fight. Simple as that. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of, like, I think in the early rounds, if Claressa wants to come out fast, that's probably better for her, because otherwise it could be a bit stale at the beginning with both of them trying to find their range, both of them sitting off each other a little bit. But I don't really see that happening. I just think Claressa is going to want to stick it on her, and that brings me on to the hindrance. I think that she's very emotional. Coming into this fight, it seems like she's a bit rattled.
Who have you fought who got ready for 6 weeks? Nobody!
I don't know if that's my personal opinion. Some of you guys might think that she's not. Maybe you think that I'm being biased. But I think even in the face-to-face, she came off like she was biting on things a little bit more. Whereas Savannah Marshall looked a bit more stoic, a bit more calm in her approach. And yeah, on the night, I think that's one of the worst things you can have, is if she gets too emotional, just runs in there with those flurries and then gets caught. It could be very dangerous, and it could be the end of the night for her personally. So, coming on to my prediction for this fight, it's a weird one because my heart says something else, but my head says something else. In my head, I've got Claressa Shields winning on points over the full rounds. I can see her just setting that pace from early, and I think that's what it's going to be coming down to. Who can actually set their own pace early? I think Savannah would prefer a slower fight. I think Shields obviously wants to put the pace on her a little bit. But my heart says that Savannah is going to catch her at some point. It's a long fight, and all it takes is one punch. Like, she's going to get caught, and for some reason, I just have faith in Peter Fury. I just think that he would have devised some kind of game plan to like negate the attributes of Shields in there. He's very smart. He knows exactly what those attributes are. And I think they would have just really drilled it. And he said that it's been a brutal camp. So I think they've pushed Savannah all the way in camp. And I could just see her landing something at some point and really hurting Shields. Shields is tough though. See, I'm kind of sitting on the fence. If I have to make a prediction right now, my prediction is Savannah Marshall to win via knockout between rounds 5 and 8. That's my prediction. Between 5 and 8. I think Shields is going to come out quick. I think she's going to nick some rounds early on. But once those hands get going, I think it's going to be a ticking time bomb in there. I think Savannah is going to land. Controversial, I know. We might have a new quote come Sunday morning. But that's my prediction. Hit a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. I enjoy doing these breakdowns. If you guys enjoy watching them, I'll keep doing them. So show some love on the channel and I'll keep bringing you these breakdowns. But yeah, that's it from me. Until next time, peace.